Hello, everyone.
And welcome to Chameleon Conversations.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Desiree.
Today, we're going to have a conversation about quarantine life.
Yeah, this is such a unique time in our world's history, in our lives personally. And we just both thought it'd be pretty cool to have something to look back on and know how we felt, what we did, how we responded during this crazy time. So the first question I think naturally would be, what was your initial response?
I think my initial response, especially in the early stages of it, was disbelief. I saw kind of different countries and kind of remote areas that it just hadn't hit the US quite as hard yet. And I don't know, you just had a lot of discussions at work about whether it was really gonna affect us like that, or whether those measures taken were really, justified. And it was just kind of like a lot of hearsay, and it was, just kind of just far away, kind of remote and disconnected.
So you personally didn't really believe that we were going to be impacted all that much?
Well, initially, yeah, we had never seen anything like this, and so just seeing the actions taken. I remember Italy really locked down pretty fast.
See, that's so interesting because I don't remember learning about Italy at all. To me, I learned about that in reverse, which is kind of interesting. But I feel like I personally, just via social media, kind of slowly heard about stuff kind of happening, governments needing to kind of, figure some stuff out. But I would say with you, I didn't really believe anything was going to be too crazy. I didn't really anticipate too much. So I think initially we kind of laughed at it. We kind of, just along with everybody else, laughing at the people stocking up on toilet paper, paper towels, hand sanitizer, not really thinking much of it until the point where we just so happened to be we were going to the grocery store because this is right after payday, and we were like, oh shoot, we're low on toilet paper. And so then we kind of had a fun little adventure trying to find toilet paper because it really was gone. And then my idea, and it kind of still remains to be true, is to go to the fancy bougie stores. Because they're always hit last. Everybody wants to get the items, but usually the cheap places go first. So we found some bougie toilet paper.
It smelled like lavender.
Just coming out of the box. The guy was he didn't even put them up for display. He was just opening boxes and handing them to the people that were walking by, and that was us. We just kind of were yes, we also need toilet paper.
I didn't even know there was lavender scented toilet paper.
I didn't know there was scented toilet
paper. So what was an experience or experiences that solidified the seriousness of the situation?
For me, it had to have been grocery shopping, because that's my regular thing that I would do normally. So when your regular day gets kind of interrupted with some just very different scenes, that kind of really woke me up was when I went to the grocery store and there was a line outside, a really long line. Some people even turning away and not going into the store because the line was so long. Not understanding why the line was there. I just not prepared for it at all. And then realizing that they were letting people into the stores in small increments as people left, and some people would be let in. Then there was the having to wear masks in some of them were even required. And then when you could no longer bring in your own bags to the store because they didn't want to get contamination, in their store coming from your home possibly. So that was all I think the first, when I was whoa, this is serious. Big stores that I've never experienced anything like this, kind of just changing all of their policies all of a sudden.
One was in the store shelves.
Oh my gosh, yeah. When the store shelves were bare, just completely empty. It was a really interesting awakening for me too, to see what things went first. Pasta was gone. Noodles, like ramen and soups, totally picked over. The Mexican food, surprisingly still around.
Yeah.
Lots of salsa that was like the last thing on people's minds, I
feel
guess.
like everyone went to, what can I cook fast and easy? And it was like, I can make pasta, I can heat up some
I guess
soup.
I think Mexican food, but because I am come from a family that cooks Mexican a lot, seems as easy. But yeah, you're right. It's probably not
a go-to easy thing.
Yeah,
but yeah,
soup and pasta were like and they remain on the shelf for a long period of time, so that makes sense.
I think eggs and like milk and
Dairy.
cereal.
Oh, meat kind of went a bit.
Yeah, so you really see people's priorities.
Preferences. Yeah. But yeah, we still managed, but that was one for me. So what about for you? When did it kind of become very serious for you?
So the first week of all of this was kind of like everyone feeling it out, taking each step kind of lightly. But I don't know, you've never experienced this. We didn't know if we were going to be back in a couple days, in a week.
I think most people thought just like a few weeks.
Yeah, and so we just didn't know. So when the first week completed and our chain of command said, we're going to just bump this back to the end of the month. It might have been it was a month later. So it was into May or April. I don't know.
I think it started in March. Anyways, it bumped back a month.
Bumped back a month. That was very eye-opening. Like, oh, this might be like a long-term thing that's happening. I don't know. That definitely opened my eyes.
You being home a lot more was like very like, oh, this is very different.
Yeah.
So the next question would be, after realizing the seriousness of everything, of the shelter in place being a lot longer than anticipated, what did you do to adapt to that situation?
Yeah, I think initially we realized that we should have a little better preparedness in the sense of food and supplies.
Our pantry.
We tend to have quite a bit of fresh produce, and we go grocery shopping pretty often, and so we didn't have a big back stock of canned or preserved things that can last. We didn't know what was going to be implemented, whether maybe they'd shut down the grocery stores.
Yeah, exactly.
So we stocked up a little bit. We definitely don't have a ton of room, so we didn't pile up the stuff. But we were just more prepared.
Yeah, sure. I think we definitely looked at our pantry. We always kind of have some jugs of water or whatever, but yeah, we definitely kind of looked at some of the dried things that would last a lot longer. Mm-hmm. We did that. I think we got more creative. I think was the first thing that we did, was kind of really got more creative in the things that we did for entertainment and for fun and with each other. Date nights, continuing those and kind of getting creative on how and what we could do, themed movie nights where we cooked a meal in correlation with something that we were watching. I think the drive-in came in clutch. That was the coolest thing for me, that was still running, and I love the drive-in. I have a lot of nostalgia in my family from going to the drive-ins, and so to be able to go to the drive-in and just still respect kind of the social distancing. You couldn't park next to another car, and bathrooms you had to go one at a time, and again you were hit with the line system, only one person going in every so often or whatever, but still that was just super cool. We got to watch E.T. in a drive-in theater with our favorite snacks and each other. That was pretty cool. Ultimately, I think we became aware that we were already kind of pre-prepared for a situation like this in many ways.
Sure.
So in that way, we were a little bit more fortunate than others. How would you say that we were kind of more prepared in some ways?
I think we are already separated physically from our family, being in the military. So we already had that remote, FaceTime, Zoom interaction.
Marco Polo, any kind of apps and things that assist in that. We
already did that pretty often. We already have a passion and love for cooking ourselves. So, not eating out every day, or, all the restaurants being closed wasn't the biggest deal. We had to get pretty creative with our date nights and stuff. But
But even that was fun. Like we would get takeout from places that you could. And, but ultimately, we already like to kind of cook. We also already had been practicing like haircuts at home. I don't know why, but we just took that on to save money, I remember. We were like, hey, we could save a little bit of money every couple weeks if I just learned how to kind of trim and cut your hair and maintain that. And then I've always been pretty reckless with my own hair and been giving myself haircuts for a while. So that wasn't, we didn't have to adapt to that at all.
Yeah.
I think our faith really helped us through this time. We have this hope always that there's a brighter day. There is a hope and a future. I mean, the Bible says that, for I have plans for you of hope and a future, not to harm you, but to prosper you. Jeremiah 29:11. And I think because we really cling to that, that has helped tremendously during this time. Our church is super tech savvy, so I mean, it was 1 week and then boom, we had a ton of resources at our fingertips. They weren't just doing Sunday services, they were doing worship hours and devotionals and even the groups that normally meet in person, which we are connected to a group that meets once a week. It was just a small hiccup, and our church even trained people how to use Zoom so that they can still meet and connect because they understand the importance of human connection and support in your life.
And they even trained up smaller churches and helped them get that on their feet as well.
I love our church. I really do. The Father's House in Vacaville, and they have multiple locations. They really do try to address as many issues as they possibly can, which is outstanding. So that made things definitely so much smoother for us. And then lastly, I think we've worked really hard on our home and its atmosphere.
For sure.
And what it feels like to us, how to make it more pleasing and satisfying and peaceful. We'll talk about that, I think, in a future conversation for sure. All the work and effort that we've put into building a little sanctuary for ourselves. So
we also do realize that there are some circumstances that did not apply to us that
could have made things more difficult.
Definitely. And so one being our financial security in the sense of I have not missed a paycheck being in the military and just being able to adapt my job so well to home so that we could be just as effective with what we do. And
because not every job transitioned well to working from some you can't, and so it was a blessing, and we understand that it was such an easy transition. I think neither one of us have any current health issues, and I know that has been a difficulty for a lot of people who had appointments and things that they needed to keep up with. My sister-in-law and my friend are both pregnant. And so like checkups and things like that, like we didn't have to deal with the anxiety of not having as many or going into a place where contagious people might be.
Sure.
So that was something that made our experience less stressful.
Yeah. And we also don't have children. We have 2 cats.
Fur babies.
But yeah,
not the same. We understand that. Not the same.
We didn't have to, change our home into school, daycare,
restaurant.
But that parents definitely had to think quick on their feet and had a major learning curve in the sense of dealing with the schools and making sure that they could finish out the school year. I mean, we didn't have any of that.
We didn't have to consider any of those things. So that's why this experience for us was a lot smoother than most, probably. Sure. I mean, I have a sister who has 3 boys. 3 boys, and not even just boys, but highly energetic boys. And I saw them getting very creative and very funny, humorously so. My sister and her husband are very creative, and they did a lot of really fun and cute things to keep going, but we didn't even have to think about that.
Sure.
Which I think added to this time being so different for us. We also didn't experience anybody close to us dying. We know that the numbers, that the media is reporting, whether they are skewed or whatnot, we just personally didn't experience any death or anyone sick that was close to us.
Right.
My dad did and is working on the front lines of things with a center that is receiving people who are sick.
Yeah.
So that was, I think, kind of the only hard thing, knowing that he is going into potential danger on a regular basis, and then seeing how hard that was on my mom and dad, and then my sister and family who all live near each other, for them to have to not see each other for the risk of possibly spreading it to them. That was hard to watch, but again, I think we didn't have to experience anything like that in our life.
Yeah.
I think in saying all of that, what we want to get across is that we understand that this experience for us was just different, and to each person it is and has been different. My brother did lose his job, and that's just a totally different pile of things to deal with and figure out and work out. So yeah, we understand that everybody's experience is going to be different, and this was just our
experience.
Yeah.
So how have you grown during this season?
I think that there has been a lot of growth for us. One of the things that I realized through a little bit of like what was going on in social media, where there was this kind of tug of war between being productive during this time and resting and kind of dealing and processing during this time.
Yeah.
And kind of just like this whole reevaluation of priorities that America has, or whatever. I think through all of that, one quote that rang out for me personally was this quote that went something along the lines of, if you have constantly said that you need more time in your life, and then during this season when you've been given more time are still not producing in the way that you had always hoped or imagined, then it's not a time issue that you had, but a discipline issue. And that got me. I was like, ooh, I've never had more time, and more time to partner with and work with you or other people that kind of go with different projects that I like to work on. And I just kind of felt a little bit convicted and was like, the rest thing, I think we do well. Probably too well.
I think we've been doing it well for a while.
For our whole lives. It is the self-discipline area where we struggle. And so I think that I've grown the most in embracing the need to create routine and create systems and really evaluate what works for us and what doesn't, what works for me and what doesn't, and really push and lean into the things that do work and try to do them consistently. I think I've grown a lot. And I think I've grown in emotional stability, I think a lot of times, and I think I still am, quite wavy in my emotions. I remember a few years back, we were having a tea time with the Thompsons, for those who remember that, about anxiety that I was dealing with, really intense season of anxiety, which I would like to say I actually don't deal with or haven't had to deal with since that time. I think we really pressed into how to address it, and I haven't had anything like that in a long time. So I think I've really grown in having, like our last conversation, tactical pauses, assessing a situation and how I want to respond. And I think I've really been growing in my ways of responding to stuff. What about you? What's an area that you have grown in?
Well, I've definitely grown with my creative projects, with my discipline, in the sense of I had to definitely adapt with working from home for my work, but we also started a bunch of projects and different things that we had been wanting to do for a while. So really managing time well, and just setting up those systems that work well for us to accomplish what we want to accomplish. It was kind of a gradual thing, but I think now we are pretty comfy in the systems that we've put in place, and also being willing to learn and understand people and what they're going through, setting aside, especially for me, setting aside my pride of thinking I know everything or everything I need to know about the situation, and being willing to listen to someone, talk with someone, make some, difficult conversations.
Yeah.
But also research that needs to be done to further your understanding.
Yeah, I think that we were really faced with that when it came to George Floyd and his murder, and just the overwhelming explosion of response to that.
Yeah.
And just us having to kind of sit back and I think I learned that from you, was to not respond quickly, but to listen and to learn first, and then kind of develop a response. And I think we developed a plan between each other to just continue our, like you're saying, our growth and our knowledge and our understanding and listening to more than one side.
Yeah, I think we definitely listened and watched on social media and talked with people around us, but we also heard about some resources that
Through social media.
Yeah. And so we watched the documentary on Netflix, 13th. That was really good.
We listened to a couple different pastors and leaders in the communities that we like to listen to, really addressing certain situations, having really unique conversations.
It's really easy to just cut yourself off or listen to a certain point and then stop. I think there are a lot of blind sides to everyone. We all have our bias, and I think just being aware of your own bias or
blind spots, or every person has blind spots. That's why community is important, because and diverse community is important,
because people can help you identify those blind
things
spots
that you didn't even realize were things that you need to maybe address or even just consider, and find your standpoint in it all. And bottom line, I've come to realize that no one's going to agree on how to respond to anything. And that's okay. That your only job, the only person that you are in charge of or can completely control is yourself. And just kind of evaluating, what am I going to do in response to this? How much am I going to exercise understanding and listening, and then, what am I going to do in response to what I know?
Right.
One thing I've noticed throughout this whole quarantine season, and it's ongoing, we're still in the midst of it. It hasn't been fully lifted yet. It is in different parts of America slowly, but who knows if that will be retracted, if there'll be a spike. Right now, we're still in the midst of the unknown. But one thing that I've noticed that was kind of a little bit sad to me, and I think really needs to change in our culture, is that it's okay if different people navigate circumstances and situations differently. We're all on our own journey of life, and I can't say this enough, it's not a competition. So it was hard for me when people would ask me, how are you doing? And my honest answer is great. Better than ever. And that sounds so, pompous, so, puffed up and like, oh, good for you. But it's true. Like, we really did thrive during this season and push ourselves in ways that we had never done before. And because we couldn't drive anywhere, we saved a lot more money than before. And just silly things that just kind of happened to pile up to be a lot of good for us. But people will ask me that, and then after that I will return the question, and it's almost like I saw them. And because these are people I know, people that I'm very close to, and I understand their mannerisms and things, they look stressed out, they look tired, they look like they wanted to talk about some of the stuff going on and that they're going through. And then for some reason, when I would share my response, they would switch and say, oh yeah, I mean, in light of things, we're doing well too. And my heart would just break, and I'd be like, no, like, why? Like, why did you just shut down? Why did you just pivot? I'm not in competition with you, and I'm the type of person who will tell a stranger when I'm doing bad. Trust me, I have bad days and bad times, and I'll tell you about it, but just this wasn't one of them. And then I saw that it became popular to ask, how are you? How are you really?
Yeah, because I think it's a natural thing in our culture to save face.
Yeah.
And it's not, especially in times like this, it's not the best thing to do usually, especially if you're with friends or people who really care about you and really want to listen and help you as best they can through a situation. And if you just say you're good or whatever, then it's hard to help.
Yeah. That is something that I hope to see change in the future, is just that if somebody's good, oh well, like you can still share where you're maybe not so good, and that it doesn't have to be a competition in any way. If those in this season needed to be more productive and that's how they responded and it was in a healthy way, great. But if those needed to realize that they needed more rest and they needed to cope or deal with the trauma, because that's a huge thing, like the world was going through like a collective trauma, and they just needed to do something different, like that's okay. Like if we respond differently to different situations, that's okay.
Yeah, it's good.
But yeah, I think to summarize this whole situation, this pandemic, COVID-19, coronavirus, the Rona, all of everything that's going on in the world right now, the protests, the riots, the conversations, the political, with everything that's going on, I think the biggest takeaway is that we can understand that bad things will continue to happen.
Yep.
Difficult things will continue to happen, and change, good or bad, is always going to continue to happen. And the best thing that we can do is figure out how we ourselves are going to respond. We can't control what other people do, but we can control what we do.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the biggest takeaway, I think, from this quarantine life season.
Makes me think of a quote from the show Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Best show ever.
Uncle Iroh, who's the wise man that always has something wise to say. He said, "Life happens wherever you are, whether you make it or not."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's really good.
And it really is. I think that's what we've lived by. No matter where we go in the world, no matter what area, what situation, whatever cards were dealt, we choose to try to make the best of it.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that that's all we can do. There's obviously so much more we could say on every little detail of what we experienced, but I think that that's a good summary. Yeah. And that's the beauty of conversations. They never truly end. And we hope you continue this conversation and many more.
Well, we'll see you guys next time.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.